Hey everyone, this is the Heroes podcast, and I'm back again with Michele Vilseck. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
I'm very excited about this conversation coming up because we're going to talk about, we'll tell you that later. But first, I will intro Michele before we dive into her story. She's a dynamic speaker, community builder, and a founder of the Inspire Speaker Network. In just 90 days, Michele grew a thriving community of over 300 superfans using her proven strategies for connection and engagement. Wow, I need to find out more about that one because I think that sustains the business forever. So her heart-centered approach to leadership helps others build movement that not only grow their influence but also align with their deeper or deepest values. Welcome, Michele. Wonderful and mouthful what you achieved. Do you want to take us back to the beginning? How it has all started, life for you, if there were any struggles around self-worth, self-confidence?
Yes, yeah, you mentioned that's the constant struggle, right? With life. I feel like for me personally, the struggle has been allowing myself to be myself without fear of rejection. And I think that all started, now that I'm older, I've been working on this for 20 plus years, then I realized that, okay, it actually started whenever my parents got divorced when I was 8 years old. And at the time, I made it mean that it was all my fault. And I was the reason I wasn't good enough. There must have been something that I did. I was the reason that he left. And I just felt abandoned by everybody, and my mom, my dad, emotionally abandoned because, yeah, especially when you're a single mom, you're doing, you gotta go. She had to go back to school. She was doing work. She really was emotionally there for us, and she's an amazing mom. But just, uncovering all of this in the last few years, I just realized, yeah, my big fear has always been that if I'm myself, then people are going to leave and they're not going to stick around. So, uh, in terms of how it showed up in struggles, was in high school, I became gluten-free. Back before that was a cool thing to do. I had these stabbing pains in my gut. I had no idea what was going on, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. So by the time I was in high school, I had so many food sensitivities and allergies that I was down to 5 foods on my I can eat them list. Yes, yes.
How many?
So it it was awful. And yeah, so anybody who's like doing restrictive dieting, let me tell you, I've been there. So what I dove into plant-based, like the plant-based vegan space, really helped me recover my digestion. But then even eventually I realized that could only take me so far. And what the root problem really was my high achieving expectations, which put a bunch of stress, and I was repressing all my emotions. And so really once I realized, oh, health has to do with your emotions. Yeah, nobody really told me that. And so I got to the point where I was just so obsessed with food and trying to eat the exact right thing and do the exercise and all of the things, and it just wasn't enough. And so yeah, that just kind of started my journey into the emotional, mental health space and just discovery, which has been going on for quite some years from then. Yeah.
Let me ask you this because this really is, I hope people get this. Would you say this health issue and restricted to eat 5 type of food, I think it's quite brutal. Uh, would you say most of it were to do with emotional blocks or you were hanging on to, or what percentage, I mean, that's a better question. What percentage would you say were due to having, well, those expectations, those whatever you've been carrying?
Whenever I first this understood that emotions were part of it, I would have said 50-50. But the more I've dived into it, I would say it's closer to 90%. I would say almost everything because it really opened up my eyes. And actually, I became a health coach after that, and when I started my business, I was a health coach, and my very first client had really similar digestive issues where he would go to the emergency room at least once or twice a month. He'd go to the emergency room with these digestive issues. They ran tons of tests on him. They said, I have no idea what the problem is. They kept sending him home. He was like, I don't know what's going on. And I said, I know what it is. I know exactly what it is. And within 3 weeks, he never went back to the emergency room. Because honestly, just the awareness that, because when you don't know, I mean, let me finish that sentence. The awareness that it is emotionally, mentally, energetically founded is a huge aha moment. Then you stop looking in the wrong places for the answer, because whenever you think it's a physical problem, then you continue to look for physical answers and you continue to restrict yourself more. I've seen this so many times where you restrict yourself more, then you're trying different things, but all of the different foods and the things that you're doing, you're actually getting different responses with them, because it's actually tied, the emotions is actually the problem. So one day you'll eat something and then it'll cause you problems, quote unquote. And then another day you'll eat it and it'll be fine because you're emotional. It's really your emotions. So you're looking at the wrong thing. So I think just understanding that, yeah, and then you continue to stress out about it and then you're worried about finding the solution. So just understanding that the majority of our health problems, and I'm not saying that food doesn't have a space, and exercise and all of it does. It makes a huge difference. But if you don't have the emotional piece there, then it doesn't matter what you do with food. It's not going to solve your problem.
It begs the question to, I'm really keen to learn from you. What would you say modern medicine as we know it? I would really restrict their treatments, but how much would you think is actually maybe you or someone who could do emotional work should be first and then present them at the bloody doctor, the white robes? What would you say?
I would say, I love Jack. Okay, first of all, this kind of gets into my new movement. What I do in my business now is I'm rebranding as the rebellion, because I really feel like there's so much that I was rebelling. I've always been rebelling, and so with this, whenever I would go to doctors, and doctors had no idea what to do with me, and I was asking them, what's the problem, or what do I eat, and they would just say stuff like, oh, there's just chronic illness, there's nothing you can do. Like, oh, yeah, this is just a problem. You're just going to have to take medicine. Even the gastrointestinal doctors, I mean, I had so many doctors laugh at me about what I was trying to do. I had so many of them, even the gastrointestinal doctors, like, oh, we need to run all of these tests. And I was like, what are you going to do after you run all of those tests? Oh, we'll play around with your diet, blah, blah. And I was like, good, I can do that by myself. Bye, And so I got so frustrated and rebelling against the doctors telling me that I had to settle for what, you have to settle, just give up. There's nothing you can do about it. And that became my rallying cry, is like, you can absolutely do something about it. And I think, so anyways, but before that, so my point about doctors is they have a place. I broke both of my wrists at one point, falling off of something. Perfect. I went in there, they took care of me, they patched me back up. I can use both of them perfectly. So I love them, and they have such a place in the place that they have a place. There's a place for doctors. But I think what they aren't good at, and what they probably just don't have time to do, honestly, is help people see that, hey, have you ever thought about stress? Hey, have you ever thought that maybe it's an emotional block? And even in the plant-based space, there's a lot of very strict people about their diet. They only eat organic. They only eat healthy food. They only eat they won't have sugar or salt or processed foods, or like they'll go so deep into it. But what I've seen there is they're still having health issues, still problems are still coming up. And I'm like, well, they keep asking, and even in that space, then they'll ask the plant-based doctors who understand a little bit more about nutrition. But like, I think people are still looking for someone else to solve their problem, when a lot of times it's within us. And I've seen so many health breakthroughs myself I reversed all my food sensitivities, and now that I don't have nearly the restrictions that I used to have because I understand this. I worked with a friend of mine. Actually, when I was a health coach, he came to me and he had high blood pressure for the last 6 years. And he told me his wife had died of a heart attack. He's in his 30s, late 30s, not even 40 yet. Okay. And he has 2 children, and his children have to watch him take his blood pressure every day after mom has already died of a heart attack. And he's like, Michelle, I've got to do something about this. And he was completely broke, sold his car to work with me. And in the first day, he reversed his blood pressure in 3 hours.
Hmm.
And it wasn't because of what we were eating, right? To tell you, Andre, it wasn't what we were eating. It was because he had a shift emotionally, energetically, faith, whatever you want to call it, that changed. And he measured his blood pressure 3 hours later, and he said, it's never been this low in the last 6 years, even when I've been on all my medications. So
That's remarkable. And yes, I love to hear this story. It really echoes that issues that I had with my son. He had asthma, and we were left with, all right, madam, take these steroids and just feed him until he becomes a balloon, and hopefully
yes.
he'll grow out of it. And I said, well, no, we're not going to do that. So we done a lot of things, but emotional work certainly, which I could do, has been essential to help him because we were running out of options. So tell us, let's go back to your story. I didn't want to take this the other way, but well, what happened? You said health coaching, you started to help people. And how did you evolve through your own, I don't know, becoming? Uh, have you had any other things that shifted your awareness, that created, I don't know, that life purpose, what you do now?
Yeah, it has been an evolution for sure. After health coaching, still in that space, I was actually really struggling with emotional eating, so and overeating, and it was it when you're in that space, it's just very demoralizing, and nobody really understands. And everybody's like, well, Michelle, you're eating healthy, you're fine. Like, why are and I was at a healthy weight. And they're just like, you're just making stuff up, whatever. So I really decided as a health coach, I'm going to conquer this and I'm going to figure it out for my clients. And what it ended up helping me was I read this book, but really what I understood was it was all a mindset thing. Then we're going to talk about rebellion again here because everybody was saying, okay, you're addicted. You're going to struggle with this the rest of your life. You're going to have to take it one day at a time. It's always going to be a problem. It's going to get easier, but you're still going to be, an overeater or whatever the label was. And I'm just like, no, that I wasn't born in the world having this problem, and I'll be able to change it. So what I read this book, it's called This Naked Mind. It's actually about alcoholism, but she talked about how she just went through and wrote down all the reasons, the logical reasons her brain were giving her why she drank. And then she went through each one and just debunked each one because each one really is a lie. Like, oh, it's so fun, or it gives you confidence, or whatever it was, social status, or whatever it was. And she just like reprogrammed each one. And whenever I was reading the book, at the beginning of the book, she says, with such confidence, by the time you're done with this book, you're going to be done with drinking. And I think just seeing her confidence in that, I was like, yes, somebody gets it. Like somebody's like, and so I applied that same thing with overeating, and I conquered it. And I just went through, and I have my top 10 thoughts I would give people, top 10 thoughts that make you eat. And we would just go through and reprogram. And so from there, when I was doing that work, I kind of woke up one day and I said, I really want to do events. Like I want to do workshops with my people. I want to really help people, because the frustrating thing about being a coach is you can't help very many people because you can only work one-on-one with so many people. And then some people who really need your help, they can't afford it or they don't get it yet. And so they don't say yes. And I thought, I just want to do workshops and help a lot of people. And then some of them will say yes, and I'll be able to help some of them more. But so I jumped in and got a certification in speaking and selling from stage and serving people. And I just started doing these workshops online, serving a bunch of people. I actually went from selling my coaching, you'll get this being in this space. I went from struggling to sell a $2,000 health coaching package to selling almost the exact same package for $10,000 using events, because you can help people really understand the value of themselves and investing in their mind and investing in their body. And so after that, I was like, wait, I need to show other people how to do this. I needed to show other coaches how to speak, how to convert from stage, how to help people really, yeah, just with events, because of all the reasons that I said, that you can serve so many people with your events, but then you can also serve them higher. And then coaches are just underpaid in general. They're struggling with, and so yeah, it's a long journey, but basically I go from this to this to this. And so I started the Inspire Speaker School to help speakers and to teach them speaking. And then the other thing that I realized that they really need is that community. So, who are you going to do your event to? Who are you going to do your workshops to if you don't have an audience? And speakers, coaches, entrepreneurs in general are struggling with audience because they don't want to spend all day on social media. They don't know how it works. And so that's really the shift that I made recently, was putting that, helping them with that. And then now that you have an audience, let's get you on stage. Yeah.
So what would you say? You telling me that you worked out how to become authority, how to become the authority to be listened to and have an audience. Where are they being unaware or completely having beliefs that are killing their result? What would you say?
You mean for entrepreneurs and coaches?
Coaches, entrepreneurs online. What's missing? If you could give us 3 or 5, that's typical ones that they because my belief is that most entrepreneurs and businesses fail, or let's say I don't like the word failing, it just don't produce the results that they would want to, is because they think they know something, but there is just so much unawareness that they need to learn it hard way or easier way from a mentor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so I would say the top 4 things that people struggle with is, especially I work a lot with people who are impact driven. They have a heart for service. They want to make a difference. They actually care about people, I don't work with people who just want to sell stuff. So those type of people, I would say their biggest struggle is whenever you become a coach or an entrepreneur out of that, because someone said to you, wow, you're really good at that, or you got results and you're like, wow, I really want to help people with this. Then you come into it not thinking, oh, I want to be a marketer. Like, I want to go figure out how to sell stuff. I would love to spend all day marketing and sales with my business. You're like, no, I just want to spend time serving them. And so I think really the biggest mindset stuff in terms of not producing results in your business is you just don't really know how to market and sell. You don't know what sales, you don't enjoy sales. So I would say the top things are, number 1, you don't know how to market. Number 2, you don't want to spend all day on social media. Number 3, you don't like sales because it feels yucky. You've had bad experiences. There's just a lot of mindset around sales. And then because of that, you're not getting a consistent income. So you can't get the support. If you're not getting consistent income, then you can't get the support and the coaching that you need in order to solve the other problems. So I would say that's kind of the cycle that I see for people.
That's powerful. So who is your ideal client? If they are listening to us, how would they know they've got to talk to you?
My ideal client are they're coaches, primarily coaches and consultants who have a higher ticket item, like a $1,000, $2,000, or you want to have something at least 2,000, 5,000, etc., where you're really, and their heart is in service. And ultimately, it's those who have a movement where you're not just out there to be a coach, you're not just out there to be a speaker. You're out there because you have a calling inside of you. You see something outside of you that you're rebelling against. You're like, those doctors, homeschool, right? I'm into homeschool too, right? Like, something out there isn't right and I want to make it right. People are struggling and I'm so sick of seeing this struggle. So it is those coaches and consultants and entrepreneurs, and they're just what I said, struggling to get a consistent cash flow coming in because they don't want to be on social media all day. They don't want to be making content all day. They don't want to be super salesperson where you feel like you have to know all of the ins and outs and be amazing. They just want to get out there and speak their message, speak their message, share their love and serve other people, and then have the money come on and fall, right? Like that's the dream. Can I just go do what I like doing and the money comes? And so that's who I target, because the way that I help them is to build the community first and to build it in that way where it's service first. And it just really aligns with most people to speak your message. If you love speaking your message, if you love connecting with people and you love serving them, then that model works for you.
What's the easiest way to get in touch with you? Do you have a website? What's the name of the community? How is the easiest to get in your circles?
Yes, thank you. The easiest thing, honestly, I have a network party that's called, our community on Facebook is called Inspire Speaker Network. And it's all based around a network party, which is what I teach my clients to do, is to create a connection event that really serves your community. And really, if you come in and you come to the network party and you see it and you like it and you want to repeat that model, then you'll know if it's great. So I say, everybody come to the party, see what's going on there. And currently we have speakers. It's primarily focused around speaking and speaking careers. So we connect speakers to stages, you connect with other people, you serve other people, and you also get a couple of my freebies whenever you join. So you can go to inspirespeakernetwork.com. So it's just Inspire with no S at the end, Inspire, or no D. I guess everybody wants to put a D on it. InspireSpeakerNetwork.com, and you can RSVP for that, get the freebies, join the community. You can come on Facebook, or you don't have to. You can just come on Zoom, whatever you feel comfortable with.
Powerful. If you look towards the future, how do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? What would you celebrate?
There's so many things. There's so many things. But I think I would just be celebrating helping people do what I've done, helping people really crack the code on their business so that it's thriving. They're living the movements that they were born to live, and they created these communities and these movements and this wave of change, just like I have, and we're all doing it together. That's what I say.
And let me ask you this. I understand you are a homeschooler mom, which I respect. I understand what that means, because I am in a similar situation. What would you say to parents who are keeping their children in the state system because that's what they have learned from their family, or that was the norm, one? And also, how do you see your children growing up, and what difference does that make?
Yes. For me, it kind of goes back to the rebel type of idea that we've been talking about. But I served a religious mission in Japan whenever I was in my early 20s, and I learned Japanese just the natural way, right? I studied a little bit before, but then I just got tossed into the world and I learned how to speak the language that way. I actually had someone yell at me about not watching TV when we were there. So like, you should watch TV. Anyways, the point was when I came back to college and I took a Spanish class because I thought, oh, that's going to be so easy now that I already know one language. And it was so easy. But the thing that impressed me more than that was how afraid everyone was to speak the language and how counterproductive the teaching style was. Nobody was learning Spanish. They were getting through the class somehow and maybe making good grades, but they weren't learning the language. They were afraid to open their mouth and speak because they didn't want to make mistakes. They didn't want to look bad. They didn't want to be graded badly. And so it just really opened up my eyes to personally how I see the public education system is it's just broken, that it's teaching people how to shut up, how to follow the rules, how to stay in line, how to not be creative, and how to be afraid of failure, when the reality is in the real world, it's all about failure. And the more that you are familiar with and accepting of and willing to fail, the more you are going to learn and be able to change in the world. And so I've been doing it for a year and a half or so. And I took one of my boys home and then the other one a little bit later. But for both of them, there's been a deconditioning of, every time they make a mistake, they're so stressed out. Like every time they make a mistake, he's like running into the room crying because, oh, I got it wrong. And I was like, I don't care about the right answer. I don't care about the right answer. I want you to just, if you get it wrong, no problem. Let's just look at it and try it again. Like, it's not a big deal. All you did was you wrote one number instead of another number. And we just, and so for me, it's about them loving learning and them being okay with failure. And just, I don't know, we could go on and on, but for me, I see them being creative. I see us following the things that they're passionate about, because that's how we really learn in the world. Whenever you started your business, you're like, oh, I need to learn marketing. So then you went out and you learned all about marketing in all these different ways, and you tried stuff and you failed until you find one that actually works. And that's just not how school is set up. School says you're going to learn this on this day and you're going to write like this. And if you have a question that takes us off course, then we're just going to shut that down. We're not going to follow it because it's a mass. There's reasons why it's set up that way, but I appreciate and I'm grateful that I'm like, oh, you want to learn how a microwave works? Let's go figure out how a microwave works, right? Or, you love turtles? Let's go learn about turtles instead of, okay, let's get this assignment done.
Powerful. Sure. Thanks very much. I got the deconditioning for me was I was incentivizing my children to start something new and then not take personally whatever the outcome was, because I wanted to have them to reset that inner motivation to be open and try things and let go of the outcome to explore. So that bring back that playfulness that I think school is systematically eradicates.
Absolutely.
So what would you say, what have I not asked you, Michele, that you wanted to share today and I didn't ask?
I think my ultimate message to everyone, I guess, would be, us, it's a theme that's been riding through our conversation, but yeah, you don't have to settle. You don't have to settle for what other people are saying or the way that they're doing it. if you see something that needs changed in the world, that's how change happens. And you're going to be unpopular. People aren't going to like you for a while. It's not going to work because you're blazing the trail. But all of the great leaders that we have in history sacrificed a great deal and were willing to keep going despite the initial failures and because they had a reason inside them that was more important than the immediate results. And so I would say if you feel like a calling or a purpose inside of you, a fire inside of you to do something and to change something, to help someone, then that's all that really matters. Kind of like what we were talking about with the homeschool. If you fail, it's just like you said, it's not really failure. It's just that didn't work. Keep going, try something else new because we desperately need what you have.
Wonderful. Well, Michele, thanks for being here. Thanks for your wisdom. I want to take this message out from you to millions. That's where I see my channel growing to. And I'll try to make that as fast as possible. And thanks very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.